Clara Bennett dropped her cast-iron skillet onto the splintered boards of the Red Hollow stagecoach platform, with a sound like a gunshot. She squared her shoulders, looked the broad-chested rancher standing in front of her, dead in the eye, and let her voice carry to every soul on Main Street. "I'm no bride, Mr. Cole, just a cook." A buggy stopped mid-roll. A cowboy lowered his coffee cup halfway to his lips. Margaret Doyle's parasol trembled in her fist. Ethan Cole had just offered her marriage in front of half of Texas, out of duty, out of pity, out of fear for her honor. And Clara had said no. Before we ride into this story, friend, if you love stories about women who refuse to bend, women who stand their ground when the whole world is shouting at them to sit down, hit that subscribe button right now and stay with me through all 5 parts. And down in the comments, tell me what town you're listening from tonight. I want to see how far Clara's story has traveled. Now let's step back onto that dusty platform in Red Hollow, Texas. The autumn of 1872, the day a tired woman with a cast-iron skillet looked a broken man in the eye and changed the shape of his whole life. The silence stretched. Ethan Cole stood with his hat in his hand, the brim turning slow circles between his calloused fingers. Behind him, 3 children, a girl on the edge of womanhood, a smaller girl half hidden behind her sister's skirt, and a boy, no taller than a fence post, watched him the way folks watch a man crossing a creek on rotten ice. "Ma'am," Ethan said, low and careful. "I don't reckon you heard me right. I heard you fine, Mr. Cole. I said marriage, not—" "You said protection." Clara picked her skillet back up like it weighed nothing. "And I thank you for it. But I came 2,000 miles for a job, not a husband." A laugh broke from somewhere behind the dry goods store, sharp, mean. Margaret Doyle stepped forward, then parasol clicking against the boards like a judge's gavel. She was a tall woman, all bone and starched lace, with a mouth that had buried 2 husbands and outlived a war. "Mr. Cole, you cannot bring this woman to your home unmarried. Think of your children." "I am thinking of them, Mrs. Doyle." "Then think harder." Ethan didn't look at her. His eyes stayed on Clara. "Ma'am, I got 3 young ones and 4 hands and a kitchen that ain't been right since my Sarah passed. I wrote for a cook. The agent in Fort Worth said you was the best on the line. I aim to honor that. But this town can mind its own business. This town don't know how, ma'am." She almost smiled. Almost. "Then I reckon they'll learn." Margaret Doyle's voice cut between them. "Miss Bennett, you are a woman alone. Do you understand what kind of life you are choosing?" Clara turned to her slow. "I understand it real well, Mrs. Doyle. I've been choosing it since I was 17 years old. You'll be ruined." "By who?" "By everyone. Then they was never going to choose me anyway." The older girl behind Ethan Abigail, 16, and made of nothing but elbows and grief, let out a breath that sounded almost like a laugh. Then her face went blank again fast, like a window slamming shut. Ethan turned to his children. "Y'all get on up in the wagon. We're going home." "Pa." Abigail's voice came tight. "Is she coming?" "That's her choice, darlin'." Clara looked at the girl, then at the smaller one, Lily, 10 years old, eyes like a deer's watching every breath the grown-ups took. Then at the boy, Noah, 6, with his hand white-knuckled in his sister's apron. "I'm coming," Clara said. Margaret Doyle's mouth opened. Clara cut her off without looking, but not as anybody's bride, as a cook drawing a wage sleeping in the bunkhouse with the rest of the hired help. "The bunkhouse." Ethan's jaw set. "Ma'am, I can't." "You can. I've been sleeping rougher than a bunkhouse since I was a girl. With 4 men. With whoever's willing to keep their hands to themselves. I expect that includes your hands, Mr. Cole." Ethan stared at her a long second. Then he nodded just once. "It does." Then we got an understanding. Margaret Doyle stepped between them like a fence post planted in fresh dirt. "Mr. Cole, I will be writing the territorial circuit judge, and the church board, and your late wife's father, may he rest, who would be ashamed. Mrs. Doyle." Ethan turned to her finally, and his voice went low in a way that made the cowboy by the coffee cup take a half step back. Sarah's daddy been 3 years in the ground. You leave him out of this. Ethan Cole. Good day, Mrs. Doyle. He held his hand out for Clara's case. She handed it to him. Their fingers did not touch. The buckboard creaked under her as she climbed up. Clara settled herself on the bench, smoothed her skirt across her knees, and set her skillet in her lap like a Bible. Ethan climbed up beside her. The children clambered into the bed behind Noah, scrambling Lily silent. Abigail moving like she was being marched somewhere she did not want to go. Ethan clucked the team forward. For half a mile, nobody spoke. Then Noah's small voice, "Pa, is the cook lady mean?" "She ain't mean, son. She told you no. She told me the truth. That ain't the same thing as mean." Clara felt the boy's eyes on the back of her neck. She turned around on the bench. "Noah, is it?" "Yes'm." "You like biscuits, Noah?" The boy's whole face changed. "Yes'm." "Light ones with honey." "We ain't had honey since—" He stopped. He looked at his pa. "Since your mama," Clara said. The boy nodded. "Well, we'll see about that." Lily, the silent one, was watching her with an expression Clara had seen before on dogs that had been kicked too many times to remember a kind hand. Clara did not try to talk to her. Not yet. Abigail stared at the floor of the wagon. Ethan said quiet, "Miss Bennett." "Clara." "Clara." He tasted the name like it was something he'd forgot how to chew. "I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For springing the marriage thing on you in public. I had my reasons. They was good ones. I should have gave 'em to you private." "Why didn't you—" "Because Mrs. Doyle was watching." Clara almost laughed. "And you thought a public offer would shut her up. I thought it'd give her less to chew on. She's a woman who chews bone, Mr. Cole." "Ethan? Ethan." He clicked the reins. The mules pulled. After a while he said, "You ain't from Texas?" "No, sir." "Where you from?" "Tennessee, then Missouri, then Kansas for a piece, then here." "Husband?" "None to speak of." "Children?" She looked at him. He had the sense to look at the road. "None to speak of," she said again. He nodded slow and asked nothing more. The road climbed, the mules strained. Behind her, Clara could feel the children listening so hard she thought they'd crack a tooth. "Ethan?" "Ma'am?" "Tell me about your kitchen." "It ain't fit, ma'am." "How not fit?" "Last cook walked out in October. Hand-named Briggs been trying to manage. He boils everything. Salt's gone hard. Stove's got a flue I can't get right. There's a pantry, but I'm afraid to look in it." "Anybody been keeping the children fed?" A pause. "Abigail." The girl in the back did not look up. "Abigail." Clara turned around again slow. "How old are you, honey?" 16. 16 years old and feeding 4 men and 2 little ones. "They ain't little." "I am not little," Noah agreed solemnly. "No, sir," Clara said. "You are a man of letters and biscuits." Noah considered this and accepted it as fact. Abigail still would not look up. "Abigail." "Ma'am?" "I ain't here to take your place." "Didn't say you was." "You was thinking it." "You don't know what I was thinking." "Sweet girl. I was 16 once too." Abigail's head came up just a hair. Her eyes were her father's gray and tired and angry. "You don't know me," the girl said. "No, ma'am, I don't. But I know what it costs to do a grown woman's job at 16, and I know what it costs to give it up when somebody comes along to help. I ain't giving anything up." "Good. Then we'll work together." Abigail looked away. Ethan said real quiet, "Thank you." Clara did not answer him. The ranch came up over a rise about 2 hours before sundown. A long, low house, a wide barn, a bunkhouse that listed slightly to the west, a windmill that was missing one of its blades, a kitchen garden gone to weed and back again. 4 men in dusty hats stood at the corral, all 4 pretending not to be watching the wagon come in. "Lord," Clara murmured. "Yes, ma'am." This is what you sent for a cook to fix. Yes, ma'am. You should have sent for an army Mr. Cole. Couldn't afford one. The mules pulled into the yard. The men at the corral straightened up. Clara saw Ethan's jaw work. Boys, Ethan called. Boss. This is Miss Bennett. She's our new cook. She'll be drawing wages and sleeping in the back room of the bunkhouse, which I'll be putting up a partition for tonight. Anybody who's got something to say about that can say it now. Anybody who's got something to say about it later can say it to me with his fists. A tall hand with a mustache like a horseshoe spit into the dust. Boss, the town's already talking. The town's always talking, Briggs. Yes, sir, but what? Mrs. Doyle's nephew rode out 20 minutes ahead of you. He said, I don't care what he said. Yes, sir. Clara climbed down from the buckboard without waiting for a hand. Her boots hit the dust. She set her skillet on her hip like a child. She looked at the four men one at a time. They looked back. One by one, their eyes dropped. Gentlemen, she said, supper's at 6. If you're late, I throw it out. If you're early, I put you to work. My name is Clara Bennett. You can call me Miss Clara or Miss Bennett or ma'am. You may not call me anything else. Are we clear? Yes, ma'am, said 3 of them. The 4th Briggs said, Yes, Miss Clara. Then we're going to get along just fine. She walked past them toward the house. Behind her, she heard Ethan say low, Boys, you heard her. Inside the kitchen, Clara stopped in the doorway. She did not curse. She did not sigh. She set her case down on the floor. She set her skillet on the only square inch of clean counter she could find. Abigail. The girl had followed her in. Ma'am. Where's the broom? Pantry. Where's the lye? We're out. Where's the vinegar? We're out. Where's the flour? Mostly weevils. Clara nodded. All right. All right. All right means I know where we stand. Abigail stared at her. You ain't gonna yell. At what? At the kitchen. At me. At ye. Honey. Clara turned to her. When I was your age, I cooked for a railroad camp in a canvas tent with no floor and snow blowing in the seams. I have seen worse than weevils. This here is a kitchen. You just been short-handed. Abigail's eyes filled. She turned her back fast. Clara did not look at her. She did not say a word. She opened the stove door. She knelt to it. She started in. Behind her, the girl's breathing steadied, then steadied more. Then she said, There's a bag of cornmeal in the cellar. Pa hid it from Briggs. Bless your pa. And there's 3 eggs. 3 eggs. Hen quit laying last week. Hen's tired. Yes, ma'am. We'll see to the hen tomorrow. Yes, ma'am. By 6 o'clock there was cornbread on the table, buttermilk biscuits beside it, a pot of beans with a strip of salt pork Clara had unburied from the back of the pantry. A pitcher of well water. Nothing else. Nothing fancy. But it was hot, and it was on the table, and it was a meal. By 6:15, the 4 hands and Ethan Cole and 3 children were sitting around a table that had not held all of them at once in 2 years. Clara stood by the stove with her arms crossed. Briggs took a bite. He chewed. He put his fork down. He picked it back up. He took another bite. His eyes went wet. Miss Clara. Mr. Briggs. My mama made cornbread like this. Where's your mama, Mr. Briggs? Georgia, ma'am, buried in 1863. Then you eat slow, Mr. Briggs, and you remember her good. The man nodded. He did not look up from his plate again for 10 minutes. Noah ate with both hands. Lily ate without sound, but she ate. And at one point Clara caught the girl looking at her just for a flicker, just long enough to know she'd been seen. Abigail ate watching her father the way a sentry watches a tree line. Ethan ate 1 bite. Then another. Then he set his fork down. Miss Clara. Yes. You. Eat your supper, Mr. Cole. We can talk after. He picked his fork back up. After supper, after the hands had filed out to the bunkhouse and the children had been sent to wash, and Abigail had finally let Clara take a dish from her hands, without a fight. Ethan stood in the kitchen doorway with his hat in his hand again. "Miss Clara?" "Yes." "About the bunkhouse partition." "I'll help you put it up." "No, ma'am, I will." "All right." "And about what you said, in town." "I meant it, Ethan." "I know you did." "Then there's no more to say. There's one more thing." She turned to face him. He was a tall man, taller than she'd realized on the buckboard, and there was something in his face. Not pity, not pride, not the thing she'd been braced for. Just a tiredness that matched her own. "My Sarah died of a fever 3 winters back," he said. "She was 30 years old. The last thing she said to me was, 'Ethan, don't let the children forget how to laugh.' I'm sorry, Mr. Cole. I've failed her on that." "You ain't failed her. You been tired. That ain't a defense. It's the truth, though." He looked at the floor, then he looked up. "Miss Clara, I didn't ask you to marry me out of pity, or duty, or fear of Mrs. Doyle." "Then why?" "Because I wrote to the agency in Fort Worth and he sent me your letter. And in your letter you said you wasn't looking for charity. You was looking for work. And you said, I remember it word for word, you said, 'I aim to be useful to a family that needs me, and I will not ask to be loved, only paid.' And I read that letter 3 times. And I thought that woman has been hurt." Clara did not move. "And I thought my children been hurt too." She did not move. "And I thought maybe a hurt woman and a hurt family ain't such a bad fit." "Mr. Cole." "Ethan? Ethan, that ain't a reason to offer marriage to a stranger." "No, ma'am, but it was a reason to want to make sure you was safe, and I didn't know how else to do it." Clara was quiet a long time. Then she said, "You're a kind man, Ethan Cole. I've been called worse. Don't ever offer me marriage again. No, ma'am. Not unless you mean it for the right reasons. Not unless you've known me. Not unless I've earned it and you've earned it and we both know what it means." "Yes, ma'am." "Now go put up that partition before I change my mind about the whole arrangement." He almost smiled. He turned to go. At the doorway, he stopped. "Miss Clara." "What?" "What you said in town, about not being a bride, just a cook." "What about it?" "I've been thinking on it since. And I reckon you ain't just a cook either, ma'am. Not by a long shot. But I expect we got time to figure out what you are." He put his hat back on his head and walked out into the dark. Clara stood in the kitchen alone. She set her hands flat on the edge of the counter. She let them shake for one breath for 2. Then she stopped them. She had crossed 2,000 miles. She had buried more than she'd kept. She had said no in front of a whole town that would not forgive her for it. And she had walked into a house full of strangers' grief, and she had fed 7 people on cornmeal and 3 eggs and a strip of salt pork, and she was still standing. Through the kitchen window she could see Ethan Cole at the bunkhouse, already hammer in his hand, putting up a wall to give a woman he barely knew her own 4 walls in his world. Clara watched him. She did not let herself feel what she felt. She turned back to the kitchen, rolled up her sleeves to the elbow, and got to work. She didn't sleep. Before dawn, she had the stove black. The flue swept the kettle, hissing, the bacon rendered down to gold, the meal sifted clean, the pantry catalogued and shamed back into order. By the time Briggs pushed the kitchen door open with his hat already in his hands, the smell of coffee had crossed the yard and found him in the bunkhouse. "Miss Clara." "Mr. Briggs." "You been up since 4. 4. There was a flue to sweep and a kettle to fill. Sit down." "Ma'am." "Sit down." He sat. She poured. He drank. "Miss Clara." "Yes." "This is the first cup of coffee I have had in this house that did not taste like the bottom of a cartridge box." "Then drink it slow, Mr. Briggs." The other 3 filed in, one at a time. Mason was 20 and shy. Wilkes was 40 and bald and had not smiled since the war. Tate was 32, with eyes that moved a beat too long over a woman's collarbone, and Clara had clocked him for what he was before he ever sat down. "Boys." Miss Clara, biscuits, honey, eggs is rationed till the hen forgives me. Don't ask twice. Tate leaned back. Honey, ma'am. From the peddler at the gate yesterday. I traded for it. Traded what? None of your business, Mr. Tate. Briggs hid a smile behind his cup. The children came in next. Noah was wearing his shirt backwards. Clara turned him around without a word and pinched his cheek hard enough to make him laugh out loud, and the sound was so strange in that house that Wilkes set down his fork to listen to it. Pa, Noah said. Pa. Ethan was in the doorway. He had not made a sound. Listen to what, son? Honey. Ethan looked at the table. He looked at the woman by the stove. Miss Clara. Mr. Cole. How did you... With my hands, Mr. Cole, same as anybody else. Sit. He sat. By 8, the men were back at the corral. By 9, Clara had Abigail on a stool peeling potatoes. By 10, the floor had been scrubbed twice, and the dead mouse in the meal barrel had been carried out by the tail and given a more dignified burial than it deserved. By 11, Noah was at her elbow at the woodpile, and he was crying. Sugar. Miss Clara. What? Are you going to die too? She set her hand on his shoulder. Why would you ask me that, Noah? Mama died after she came in from the cold. I told her, don't go out. She went out anyway. She got the fever the next day. Noah? She told me to mind the door. I forgot to latch it. The cold came in. Noah Cole. Look at me. He looked at her. Your mama died of a fever, not of a door, not of a 6-year-old boy. Sickness ain't bargained with sugar. It don't ask permission, and it don't care who left the latch open. You sure? I am as sure as I am standing here. He pressed his face into her apron. She let him. She did not say a word for a long count of breaths. Then she said, Now, you go inside, and you tell your sister Abigail what you just told me. Word for word. She'll be mad. She won't. How do you know? Because she's been waiting 3 years to hear it. He went. Clara stood alone with the wood. She did not let herself shake. By noon, Lily was at her elbow at the well. The girl who had not spoken once in 3 months stood there with both small hands on the bucket rope, and she opened her mouth. Miss. Clara nearly dropped the dipper. Yes, sweetheart. You don't sing. I don't sing. Mama sang. Would you like me to sing, honey? I don't know if I remember the songs. Then we'll learn 'em over, you and me. Lily nodded once. She walked back into the house. Clara stayed at the well 1 heartbeat too long. By 1 o'clock, a carriage was coming up the road. Boss. Briggs called from the corral. We got company. Ethan came out of the barn. Clara came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. Margaret Doyle climbed down without waiting to be helped, and her nephew climbed down after her with a letter half crumpled in his coat pocket. Mr. Cole? Mrs. Doyle. I have come to speak with the children. The children are at lessons. What lessons? Reading, with Miss Clara. Margaret turned. Miss Bennet, step aside if you please. No, ma'am. I beg your pardon. You ain't begging it, Mrs. Doyle. You're demanding it. There's a difference. I would like to speak with Abigail Cole privately. Then you'll do it in my kitchen with the door open. That is unacceptable. That is how it's going to be, Mr. Cole. Ma'am? Tell Mrs. Doyle whose kitchen it is. Ethan said quiet. It's Miss Clara's. I would prefer Pa. Abigail was in the doorway, 16 years old with a paring knife still in her hand. Pa, Mrs. Doyle ain't welcome in there. Abigail Cole. I am minding my manners, ma'am. Pa raised me too, but you scared my brother last week in town, and you ain't gonna scare him today in my own house. Child. I ain't a child, Mrs. Doyle. I've been cooking for this place since I was 13. Today I've been peeling potatoes for a woman who knows my mama's biscuit recipe better than my mama did. and I would rather peel potatoes till my hands fall off than sit 1 minute in a parlor with you." Margaret's mouth opened. It did not close for a long second. The nephew with the letter coughed. "Hand it over." He handed it over. She handed it to Ethan. "The church board will meet on Sunday week," she said. "Mr. Cole, you will attend. You will explain how an unmarried woman is sleeping under the same roof as your children. You will explain it to the reverend, to the elders, and to the territorial circuit officer who has been informed." "Informed by who?" "By me." She got back in her carriage. She left. Ethan stood with the letter in his hand. "Miss Clara." "I see it. They want a hearing." "I see that too. They mean for me to send you back to Fort Worth." She was quiet a moment. Then she said, "Then we got Sunday week to make sure they can't." Tate caught her at the well that night. The hands had gone to the bunkhouse. Ethan was inside reading the letter for the 4th time. The children were asleep. Clara had come out for one more bucket because in her experience, a woman who had to make a stand on Sunday week ought to have hot water ready every morning until then. "Miss Clara." "Mr. Tate." "Awful late for a lady to be out alone." "Awful late for a hand to be out of his bunk." "I just thought—" "Step back, Mr. Tate." "I just thought maybe a woman who told the boss no in front of the whole town." "Step back." "A woman like that, she might be looking—" "Step back, Mr. Tate. You ain't nothing but a—" She had the skillet off her hip before he finished the word. The sound it made against the side of his head was not loud. It was a dull, mean sound. He sat down in the dirt like a man who had forgotten how to stand. "Now," Clara said. "Mr. Tate, stay there." He stayed. "I am going to fetch Mr. Cole. And while I do, you are going to use whatever sense the good Lord left you. Because if you say that word, when he comes out of that house, he will not be the one who buries you. I will." He did not say a word. She walked into the house. "Ethan." He looked up. "Mr. Tate needs gathering." He stood up so fast the chair fell. He had the pistol off the wall before she could open her mouth. "Ethan?" "Where?" "At the well." "Ethan, did he touch you?" "No." "Did he—" He raised his voice. He did not lay hands. "Ethan Cole, you put that pistol down." "Clara, you put it down. You hear me? You shoot a man tonight. You ain't a rancher in the morning. You're a killer. And your children wake up to a father in irons. Now you put that pistol down and you help me drag him to the bunkhouse before he chokes on his own teeth." He stood there. He stood there. He set the pistol on the table. "Yes, ma'am." They dragged Tate to the bunkhouse together. Briggs met them at the door, took one look, did not ask. "He's gone in the morning," Ethan said. "Yes, sir." "With nothing?" "Yes, sir." And Briggs, "Sir, if any of you knew what he was—" "None of us knew, sir. I'd have broke his jaw a month ago." "All right." They left him there. In the kitchen afterward, Ethan would not sit down. "Miss Clara." "Ethan, he's done." "I know. That ain't on you." "It feels like it is." "That's because you're a good woman, Clara Bennett, and good women carry what ain't theirs." "Don't say it." "I ain't gonna say it." "Whatever it is, don't say it tonight." "No, ma'am." "There's a hearing Sunday week. There's a town that wants me on the next coach. There's a boy out there I just hit with a piece of iron. There's a girl who spoke to me for the first time today, and a boy who told me he killed his mama by leaving the door open. We ain't got room for whatever you was about to say." "No, ma'am." "Sit down." He sat. She poured him coffee. He drank. He set the cup down. He said, "I've been trying to figure out what to call you in my own head." "Miss Clara works fine." "It don't." "Then figure it out quiet, Ethan. Figure it out where I can't hear you." "Yes, ma'am." Past midnight, she was still in the kitchen. She heard the floorboard. She turned. All 3 of them were in the doorway in their nightshirts. Noah in front, Lily in the middle, Abigail behind with one hand on each of their shoulders. "Babies, Miss Clara." Noah's voice was small. "What is it, sugar?" "Pa said the church wants to send you back." Your pa shouldn't have told you that tonight. He didn't. Abigail did. Abigail. I listened at the door, the girl said. I ain't sorry. I see. Lily stepped forward. Miss Clara. Yes, honey. Don't go. Lily. I told Abby. I said don't let her go. She makes the biscuits with honey, and she's gonna teach me the songs. Sweetheart. I ain't done remembering yet. Clara did not move for a count of 3. Then she pulled the chair out from the table. All of you, here, now. They came. Noah climbed up first, Lily after. Abigail last, the way the tallest of 3 sisters always comes last, holding the back of the chair like she was holding the back of a horse. Clara put one arm around the boy. She put the other around the smaller girl. She let the oldest one stand against her shoulder with one hand wound tight into the cloth of her sleeve. She said finally, I ain't going anywhere on Sunday. You sure? Noah said. I am as sure as I am sitting in this chair. You promise? I promise. On what? On the honey sugar. He nodded. He believed her. Somewhere past the barn, a loose shutter started to slap. Somewhere farther than that, a wolf called once and was answered. When the children finally went back to bed, Clara stood up. She walked to the kitchen window. She put her hand flat on the glass. She could see the bunkhouse from there. She could see the light still burning in Ethan Cole's window. She did not let herself think about that light. She turned away from the window. She picked up the letter from the table. She read it once slow. She did not flinch. She folded it once again. She put it in the pocket of her apron. She blew out the lamp. Tate was gone by sunup. Briggs came to the kitchen with the news. Miss Clara? Mr. Briggs. He's gone. Took the bay mare he come in on. Nothing else. You watch him go. Watched him to the bend. Didn't look back. Good. He stood there a beat longer. Miss Clara? Yes. My ribs been kicked by a mule. I been hit with chair legs and saddle horns and a wagon tongue once. Last night was the first time in my life I've been afraid of a kitchen lady. She almost smiled. Eat your breakfast, Mr. Briggs. The days till Sunday folded down small. Wednesday at the table, Noah was already counting. Miss Clara, what day is it? Wednesday. How many days till Sunday? 4 sugar. You leavin' Sunday? No sugar. You promised. I did. Lily, without looking up, she promised on the honey. That's right, sweetheart. Thursday, Wilkes got kicked in the ribs by the gray gelding, and Briggs strapped him with rags. You're on the house till them ribs knit. Briggs, I can ride. You can't draw a breath without whimperin'. You're on the house. Friday. Abigail came in with her hair braided. She had not braided her hair since her mother died. Clara did not say a word about it. She poured the girl coffee like a grown woman and pushed the sugar across without comment, and Abigail took it the same way. Saturday night, Ethan came into the kitchen with his Sunday coat over his arm. Miss Clara? Mr. Cole? You're coming tomorrow. I am. You don't have to. I do. Clara. They are not going to talk about me without me sitting in the room. Mr. Cole, not while I'm drawing breath. Yes, ma'am. The hearing was held in the Reverend's parlor. Margaret Doyle sat in the front chair with her gloves folded in her lap. 2 elders sat behind her. The Reverend sat behind a desk. Ethan sat to the left with his hat on his knee. Clara sat to his right with her hands folded. Mr. Cole, we are here to address concerns regarding the propriety of your household. I figured. Mrs. Doyle. Margaret stood. Reverend. The facts are simple. Mr. Cole, a widower, is sheltering an unmarried woman in a region without supervision. His daughter is 16. His son is 6. The implications speak for themselves. Mr. Cole. Ethan stood up. Reverend. Mrs. Doyle. My implications speak for themselves, too. My daughter has braided her hair for the first time in 3 years. My son has stopped crying himself to sleep. My middle girl spoke a full sentence on Tuesday. My ranch hands ate their first hot supper in 4 months last week. The woman who done that ain't sleeping in my house. She is sleeping in the back room of my bunkhouse behind a partition I put up with my own hands. She draws a wage. She answers to no man. and she has done more for my family in 3 weeks than I done in 3 years." He sat down. The Reverend was quiet a long count. Margaret started to speak. The Reverend held up his hand. "Mr. Cole, the territorial officer has been notified. I cannot dismiss this. You have until the first thaw to regularize the arrangement. Either Miss Bennett returns to Fort Worth or the matter is resolved by marriage. If neither has occurred by the first day of spring, the territorial officer will visit and the children will be subject to review." Ethan opened his mouth. Clara put her hand on his sleeve. "Reverend, thank you for hearing us out." She stood up. She walked to the door. "Margaret said Miss Bennett." Clara turned. "You will not be marrying him." "No, Mrs. Doyle, and I will not be running either. We will see what the first thaw brings." The ride home started easy and turned mean by the second hour. The sky went bruised. The wind laid the dry grass flat. Ethan kept the team at a trot. A rider came up the road behind them at full gallop. "Mr. Cole, Mr. Cole." It was Tomlin, the telegraph boy from the next station over 15 and red as a brick. "What is it, son?" "Cattle scattered, sir. North pasture. Briggs sent me. Him and Mason rid out 3 hours ago. They can't find 'em all. Storm's coming up faster than expected." "How many head?" 40, sir. He thinks. He sent me to find you." Ethan looked at Clara. "Go," she said. "Clara, take Tomlin's horse. Go. You ride home alone. I rode farther alone when I was younger than that boy. Go." "Clara, go, Ethan." He went. She drove the wagon home alone with the wind pushing her sideways. By the time she got to the yard, the snow was coming. Abigail had the lamp up at the window. "Where's Pa?" "Riding north. Cattle scattered. Briggs and Mason already gone." "Wilkes, bunkhouse with his ribs." "Miss Clara, we hold the house, honey. We hold the house till he gets back." She had not got her gloves off before she smelled it. She stopped in the middle of the kitchen. "Abigail, get Noah and Lily. Right now." "Ma'am." "Root cellar. Take the rifle. Lock the door from inside. You do not open it for any voice you have not heard your whole life. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am." "Go." Lily was already there. She had been listening at the door. She took Noah's hand without a word. "Miss Clara?" "What?" "What's burning?" "The north barn. Go." They went. She was out the door before the cellar latch fell. Wilkes was on the bunkhouse step with his shotgun up against his shoulder and a face the color of a fish belly. "Miss Clara, north side." "I see it. I smell kerosene." "So do I." "It ain't a lightning fire." "No, sir, it ain't." "Boss is gonna come home to Ash." "Boss is gonna come home to whatever we leave him, Wilkes." "Ma'am, you got 2 good ribs and 1 good lung. You will not lift a bucket. You stand at the corner of the house with that shotgun and you watch the tree line. You see a shape that ain't an animal. You shoot it in the leg. You hear me?" "Miss Clara, in the leg, Wilkes. We want him alive." "Yes, ma'am." She got the horses out of the south barn. She got the milk cow out. She got the chickens she could grab and turned the rest loose to fend. She took her cast iron skillet to the well ice and broke it on the second swing. She filled a bucket and threw it on the side of the smokehouse so the smokehouse wouldn't go next. She filled another and threw it on the back wall of the lean-to. She filled another. She kept filling. Wilkes called from the corner, "Miss Clara." "What?" "Tree line, 3 o'clock." She did not stop hauling. "What you see?" "Man shape. Running." "Drop him." "Miss—" "Drop him, Wilkes. He set this fire." The shotgun went off. The shape went down. It did not get back up. "Hit him." "Thigh, ma'am. He's hollerin'." "Tie him." "Yes, ma'am." She hauled water for another hour. The barn was gone before she'd started. What she saved was the haystack from going second, and the smokehouse from going third, and the lean-to from going fourth, and the house from going last. When the riders came up the road, she was on her knees in the snow with her hands inside her gloves bleeding from the bucket rope. Ethan was off his horse before it stopped. "Clara?" "Children are in the cellar. Wilkes is at the smokehouse. There's a man tied up in the smokehouse. He set the fire. Clara. I'm fine. Your hands are fine. Bring me Briggs. Bring me Mason. Bring. Briggs was across his own saddle. His right hand was wrapped in a rag-soaked black. Mason walked on a left ankle that was not the right shape. Inside, both of them. Now. In the kitchen, she worked. Briggs' hand was burned across the back from grabbing a smoldering rope to free a steer. She cut the glove off him with her sewing scissors. He did not make a sound. She washed it. She greased it. She wrapped it. Mr. Briggs. Miss Clara. You will lose 2 fingers if this goes wrong. You will lose the hand if you let it. You will not let it. No, ma'am. Mason's ankle was broke clean. She set it. He hollered once, and then he was quiet. She splinted it with 2 pieces of pine kindling and a strip of her own petticoat. Ethan's fingers were white to the second knuckle. Sit down, Mr. Cole. Clara. Sit down. He sat. She put his hands in a bowl of water that was not warm and not cold, and she watched the color come back into them like the color comes back into a cheek that has been slapped. He did not look at his hands. He looked at her face. Clara. Don't talk. The children. In the cellar. Safe. I will get them when I'm ready and not before. Noah's voice came through the floorboards. Papa, is that you? It's me, son. Papa, is he hurt, Pa? Clara stood up. She walked to the cellar door. She lifted the latch. Abigail. Ma'am. Bring them up, slow. They came. Noah took one look at his father's hands in the bowl and went white. Papa, is he Pa? Noah Cole. Miss Clara. Look at me, Noah. Look at me. He looked. Your Pa is alive. He is cold. He is not dying. You will not help him by screaming. You will help him by holding the kettle while I pour. Can you hold the kettle? He could not speak. Can you hold the kettle, Noah? He nodded. Then hold it. He held it. Lily came up behind him with bandages in her hands. Nobody had asked her for them. She had brought them. Abigail set the rifle against the wall and rolled up her sleeves without being told. By 2 in the morning, Briggs was splinted and sleeping. Mason was splinted and snoring. Ethan's hands were pink to the tip. The fire in the yard was down to embers. The man in the smokehouse was tied at the wrists and ankles and weeping into the dirt floor. Ethan sat at the kitchen table with his hands in his lap. Clara. Ethan. Who is he? She turned from the stove. Doyle's nephew. Ethan did not move. Margaret Doyle's nephew. Yes. The boy who handed me the letter. Yes. He set his hands flat on the table. He said very quiet, I almost lost it all. You didn't. You didn't, Ethan. If you hadn't been here, I was here. Clara, don't. This place stopped feeling empty the day you walked into it. She did not answer. He said, I ain't asking you to marry me. I ain't asking nothing. I just need you to know it. She stood at the stove a long time. Then she said, I know it. He looked at her, and it don't change a thing tonight, Ethan Cole. We got a wounded man tied in your smokehouse. We got a barn to rebuild. We got a hearing that ain't done and a thaw that ain't come. You sleep. I'll watch the door. Clara. Sleep. He laid his head on his arms. He slept. She did not. At 3 in the morning, the dogs went off. Wilkes was on his feet at the kitchen door with the shotgun before Clara had her hand on the rifle. Wilkes. Rider in the yard, ma'am. Just one. Alone. Alone. Clara put on her coat. She picked up the rifle. She walked out onto the porch. Margaret Doyle sat on a black horse with her gloves folded over the saddle horn. Mrs. Doyle. Miss Bennett. You looking for your nephew? Margaret did not answer. He's in the smokehouse, with a hole in his thigh the size of my thumb. Mr. Wilkes done it. Lawfully. There was a man fleeing the scene of a burning barn. Miss Bennett. You set 1 foot on this porch, Mrs. Doyle, and Mr. Wilkes will put a hole in your thigh to match. He's just inside the door and he is awake. You wouldn't. Try me, ma'am. Try me at 3 in the morning after the night I have had. Margaret said nothing. You ride home, Mrs. Doyle. You think real hard between now and sunrise about what you done. Because come sunrise, Mr. Cole rides into Red Hollow with your nephew tied across his saddle. And your nephew is 22 years old, and he is bleeding, and he is crying like a child into the floor of that smokehouse, and he is going to say a name when the sheriff asks him. He will not. Mrs. Doyle, he already has. He said it to Mr. Wilkes 10 minutes after the shot. He said it to me at midnight. By sunrise, he will say it to anyone who asks. Margaret's hands tightened on the reins. Ride home, ma'am. She rode. Clara stood on the porch until the sound of the horse was gone. She went inside. She set the rifle against the wall. She did not take off her coat. She sat down at the table across from Ethan, with her hands folded on the wood, and she watched the door until it was light. The sun came up cold and white. Ethan stirred at the table. Clara, I'm here. You sat up all night. I sat. There's a difference. Clara. Eat. The sheriff will be here by 10. The sheriff was there by 9. He was a broad man named Halsey, who had known Ethan since they were both knee-high to fence posts. He looked at the smokehouse. He looked at the burned-out barn. He looked at Clara on the porch with the rifle still propped beside her. Cole. Halsey. Show me the boy. They showed him. Doyle's nephew was on his side in the smokehouse dirt with his leg wrapped and his face puffy from crying for 9 hours straight. Son? Sheriff? You set this fire. Yes, sir. Who paid you? Sheriff? Who paid you, son? My aunt. What was her name? Margaret Doyle, sir. That's all I need. Halsey took the boy out at saddlebag pace. Briggs walked back into the kitchen. Miss Clara? Mr. Briggs? Mrs. Doyle bought a ticket to Galveston on the morning coach. Halsey's deputy got a wire from the station. She's running. Looks like it, ma'am. By noon, the porch had bread on it. The baker's wife had brought a loaf. The blacksmith's daughter had brought eggs. The pastor's wife had brought a jar of preserves and would not look Clara in the eye. Mrs. Hatch. Miss Bennett. This is your preserves. Yes. Thank you, ma'am. I had no part in what Margaret done. I never said you did. I know, but I am saying it. All right. The woman left. Abigail stood beside Clara on the porch. They're scared. They're sorry. That ain't the same. It's the first cousin of it, honey. We'll take it. 3 days later, the rider came. He wore a gray coat with a brass pin on the lapel, and he asked for Mr. Cole by full name. That's me. Mr. Ethan Allen Cole of the Cross River Ranch, Red Hollow Township, Texas. Yes, sir. Territorial petition, filed by Mrs. Margaret Doyle of Red Hollow on behalf of the church board regarding the welfare of 3 minor children currently in your custody. An investigator will arrive within the week. Ethan held the paper a long second. She's facing charges. Charges have not been adjudicated. The petition stands. She filed this from Galveston. I do not know where she filed it from, Mr. Cole. I know it is on my desk. He tipped his hat. He rode. Ethan sat down on the porch step with the paper between his knees. Clara came out. Ethan. She filed it before she ran, or she filed it from Galveston. Either way. Either way, she is still fighting. She'll fight from the grave. I said the same thing 4 days ago. He laughed once, nothing pleasant in it. Clara. Yes. They can take the children. They won't. They can. Ethan Cole, look at me. They can. They will not. Clara. Get up. Get cleaned up. Brush your hair. Brush your children's hair. They will come, and they will look, and they will see what they see. We do not hide. We do not perform. We feed them coffee. We answer their questions. They go home. Yes, ma'am. The investigator came 4 days after that. He did not ride ahead. He did not knock soft. He swung down off a roan gelding in the middle of the yard at 2:30 in the afternoon, while Clara was teaching Lily to roll out a pie crust, and he stood with his hands on his hips and waited to be approached. Briggs got to him first. "Mister? I am Walter Penn. I am here on behalf of the territorial governor." "Yes, sir." "Where is Mr. Cole?" "South pasture, sir. I'll fetch him." "Don't. I would prefer to begin with the household." "Sir?" "Begin with you, in fact, Mr. Briggs, sir." "Mr. Briggs, walk with me." They walked. By 3, Penn was in the kitchen at the table with his coat off and a cup of coffee in his hand. He had spoken to Briggs. He had spoken to Wilkes. He had spoken to Mason. He had spoken to the milk cow by the look of it. Now he was sitting across from Abigail. "Miss Cole." "Mr. Penn." "You are 16. "Yes, sir." "You have lived in this house your whole life." "Yes, sir." "Your mother died 3 years ago." "Yes, sir." "And Miss Bennet has been here how long?" 2 months, sir." "In your judgment, Miss Cole, is your household properly cared for?" Abigail set her hands flat on the table. "Mr. Penn, you aim to take us from this house." "I aim to make sure you are properly cared for, Miss Cole." "By whose measure?" "By the territories." "Then ask the territory if a 16-year-old was properly cared for when she was cooking beans for grown men with a paring knife and a broke stove. Ask the territory if my brother was properly cared for when he believed he killed our mother by leaving a door open. Ask the territory if my sister was properly cared for when she had not spoke a single word in 3 months. And then ask the territory who is caring for us now. You will have your answer." She got up. She walked out. Penn was quiet a long count. "Mr. Briggs?" "Sir?" "Send in the boy." Noah was 6 years old, and his shirt was buttoned right because Clara had buttoned it. "Son, come sit." He came. He sat. "Are you happy here, son?" "Yes, sir." "Are you afraid of Miss Bennet?" "No, sir." "Has she ever raised her hand to you?" "No, sir. She pinches my cheek sometimes." "Does that hurt?" "No, sir. It makes me laugh." Penn looked at his hands. "Son, anything else you want to tell me?" "Yes, sir." "Tell me." "I thought I killed my mama, sir. I left the door open and the cold came in. Miss Clara said I didn't. She said sickness ain't bargained with." "Son." "I sleep now, sir. I didn't used to. I do now." Penn was quiet. "Thank you, son. Send in your sister." "Which one, sir?" "The middle one." Lily came in with flour on her apron. She climbed into the chair on her own. She did not look down. "Miss?" "Sir?" "How old are you?" 10. "Will you speak to me?" "Yes, sir." "Are you happy here?" She nodded once. "Can you tell me why?" "She is teaching me the songs." "What songs?" "My mama's." Penn waited. "Can you sing one for me, miss?" Lily looked at her hands. Then she opened her mouth and she sang 4 bars of a song her mother had sung over her cradle, and they were not perfect bars, and her voice cracked on the 3rd note, but she sang them through. Penn did not move. He did not interrupt. When she was done, he said, "Thank you, miss." She climbed down. She walked out. Penn sat alone for a long time. Then he said into the empty kitchen, "Miss Bennet?" She came in from the pantry where she had been standing the whole time. "Mr. Penn? You have made some impression on these children." "They made the impression. I just stopped running from it." "Mrs. Doyle's charges allege impropriety." "Mrs. Doyle is on a coach to Galveston, sir, and her nephew is in your sheriff's jail. Whatever she has to say about propriety, you can weigh against that." "I can. One thing." "Yes." "You and Mr. Cole are not married." "That is correct." "The Reverend gave you until the first thaw." "He did." "The thaw was 2 days ago." "Yes, sir, it was." "Are you marrying Mr. Cole, Miss Bennet?" "That ain't been asked of me, sir." "It hasn't." "Not for the right reasons." Penn nodded once. He stood up. "I will need to speak with Mr. Cole." "He is in from the pasture. He is washing up." Thank you, ma'am. He went out. He spoke to Ethan for 40 minutes on the porch. Clara did not eavesdrop. She rolled out the pie crust Lily had started. That night, Ethan came into the kitchen with his hat in his hand again. Clara. Ethan. Penn told me what you said. Did he? He said you said it hadn't been asked, not for the right reasons. I said so. Clara, don't. I aim to ask, not because of Penn, not because of the thaw, not because of Margaret Doyle. Then why? Because I have watched you save my children and my hands and my house. Because I have watched you stand on my porch at 3 a.m. with a rifle and run Margaret Doyle off my land. Because I do not want to wake up one day and find you gone and know I never said what I should have said the second week. Ethan, I love you, Clara Bennett. She did not move. I will not marry you if you do not want me to. I will sign the ranch over to you and ride out tomorrow. The territory can have me, but I will not let you go back to Fort Worth because of words I was too proud to say. She sat down. She said very quiet, "Sit down." He sat. She put her hands on the table. Ethan, I had a boy. He did not breathe. 1867. He lived 2 days. His daddy promised me a name and then took it back. I came west with nothing. I am 32 years old, and I have buried a child and a marriage I never had, and I told you on the wagon I had no children to speak of because I could not speak of him. Clara, I have to tell you, because if I marry you tonight, I am not bringing a stranger into your house. I am bringing a woman who has been a mother before, and a wife before, and was broken by both. I am not breaking again. You ain't gonna break. You don't know that. I do. How? Because I have watched you, and the only thing in you that breaks is the thing standing in front of you that don't deserve to live. She almost laughed. She did not. She said, Then hear me, Ethan Cole. Hear my terms. Yes, ma'am. I marry you. I am your wife. I am their mother. I work this ranch beside you. I do not ask permission, and I do not ask for love. I give them. I take them. Yes. If I tell you no on anything, you take no for the answer the first time, not the third. Yes, ma'am. And we do not bury my boy in this marriage. His name was Thomas. He is mine. I keep him. Yes, ma'am, we keep him. She looked at him. She said, Then I will marry you, Ethan Cole. He put his hand on the table. She put hers on his. They did not let go for a long time. Penn rode out the next morning. He stopped at the porch step with his hat already on. Mr. Cole, Miss Bennett? Mr. Penn, the petition is denied. The children remain. The territory has no further concerns. Thank you, sir. He started to turn. He stopped. Miss Bennett? Yes. I have been doing this work 15 years. And this is the first house I have walked out of where I felt I had done harm by walking in. You did your job, Mr. Penn. Yes, ma'am. It was not needed. He rode. They were married 3 days later at the Red Hollow Courthouse. Clara wore a gray dress and her own boots. Abigail did her hair. Lily carried a handful of dried flowers from the kitchen window. Noah held Ethan's hat for him through the whole ceremony and did not drop it once. Briggs stood as Ethan's witness. The Reverend himself read the lines and did not look anyone in the eye when he did. There were no Doyles in the room. When the clerk said, "You may kiss the bride," Ethan looked at Clara, and Clara looked at Ethan, and she said, "Quiet, once, for the witness." He kissed her once, for the witness. They rode home in the wagon with 3 children in the bed behind them. Halfway up the road, Noah said, "Pa." "Yes, son." "What do I call her now?" Ethan did not answer. Clara turned around on the bench. "Whatever feels right, sugar." Noah thought a long time. He said, "Mama." He said it small. He said it scared. He said it like a boy who had been waiting 3 years to use the word and had finally found a woman it would not break to use it on. Clara did not let her face change. She said, "Yes, sugar." "Yes, yes." He climbed forward over the bench and sat in her lap for the rest of the ride home. Abigail did not cry. Lily did not cry. Clara did not cry. Ethan Cole did not cry exactly, but he did keep his eyes on the road for a long count of breaths. When they got home, Briggs and Wilkes and Mason were on the porch with their hats in their hands. "Boss. Boys. Welcome home, Mrs. Cole." Clara stepped down from the wagon with Noah on her hip. She said, "Gentlemen, supper's at 6. If you're late, I throw it out." "Yes, ma'am," said the three of them at once. She walked into her house. That first night, Clara slept in her own bed. She had not moved her things into the main house. Ethan had not asked her to. She had given him terms. She kept her room in the bunkhouse the way a woman keeps a back door. In the morning at breakfast, Abigail set the table for 6. She stood with her hands on the back of a chair. "Pa, Mama, Miss Clara." She had not decided what to call her yet. "Abigail." "Yes, ma'am." "Try one." "Mama Clara." "All right. All right. All right means it'll do till you find better." "Yes, ma'am." 3 weeks later, Margaret Doyle was brought back from Galveston in irons. The trial took 2 days. Clara was called to testify on the 2nd. "Mrs. Cole." "Yes." "State your name for the court." "Clara Bennett Cole, of Cross River Ranch." "You knew Mrs. Doyle to harbor ill will toward you." "I knew her to harbor ill will, sir. Whether it was toward me or toward what I was, I cannot speak." "What were you, Mrs. Cole?" A woman who said no. The defense attorney was a young man from Austin with a soft chin. "Mrs. Cole, is it not true that you provoked Mrs. Doyle by refusing a marriage offer in public?" "I did refuse it." "Did you provoke her?" "Mr. Hatcher, a woman declining a man's hand has never in the history of the territory been a provocation. It has been a declination." "Mrs. Cole, you may move along, sir, or you may ask me a question I have not answered." He moved along. The jury was out 48 minutes. Margaret Doyle was convicted of conspiracy to commit arson and was sentenced to 10 years in the state penitentiary at Huntsville. They led her past Clara on the way out. "Miss Bennett." "Mrs. Cole, you will be ruined yet." "Mrs. Doyle, the only person in this room being led out in irons is you. Save your breath. You will need it for the walls." Margaret did not answer. She did not look back. A month after that, the first girl came to the gate. She was 14 years old. She had blistered feet inside split boots and a flour sack tied around her hair. She stood at the porch step with her hat in her hand the way Ethan had stood there once. "Mrs. Cole?" "Yes." "My name is Etta Mae Gilliland. I come from a sod house 30 miles south. My pa's dead. My ma can't read. The school in Red Hollow turned me away because I can't pay. I heard you taught your daughter to keep books and to read a stew pot like a Bible. I aim to learn from you. You are 14. Yes, ma'am. What can you do? Anything you set me to. You walked 30 miles to get here. Yes, ma'am. Sit down. Eat. We start tomorrow." Etta Mae sat down. She ate. She started the next morning at 4. By the end of summer, there were 6. By the end of the year, there were 15. By the spring of 75, Clara had converted the rebuilt north barn into a schoolroom and a kitchen and a sleeping loft, and there were 23 girls on the Cross River Ranch. That spring, the Cattlemen's Association came to the gate. There were 4 of them on horseback. They did not get down. "Mr. Cole." "Boys." "We hear your wife is teaching girls to keep books." "You hear right. That ain't a thing for women. It's a thing in my house." "Mr. Cole." "It's a thing in my house, boys." Clara came out of the kitchen with the cast-iron skillet on her hip. "Gentlemen, state your business." "Mrs. Cole, state your business or ride." The lead man, a long-faced fellow named Wickham, leaned forward in his saddle. "Mrs. Cole, the territory does not need a generation of women who think they can run a ledger." "The territory does not need your opinion of what it needs, Mr. Wickham." "Mrs. Cole, my pupils' fathers are mostly dead. The ones who ain't dead are drunk. The ones who ain't drunk are gone west. The territory is already running on the labor of women whose names are not on the deeds. I am only teaching them to count what is already theirs. You can ride home now." They sat their horses a long moment. They rode. 3 nights later, a man tried to fire the new barn at midnight. Wilkes caught him at the corner. He put 1 barrel of buckshot into the man's left thigh, and the man rode off with his foot bouncing free of the stirrup, and a trail of blood the deputy followed for 9 miles before he gave up. Sheriff Halsey came the next morning. "Mrs. Cole?" "Sheriff?" "You got enemies." "I got men afraid of my pupils. There's a difference." "What you want me to do about it?" "Nothing, Sheriff. They will tire themselves out, or they will hang themselves. Either way, you don't need to lift a hand." He tipped his hat. He rode. He was right not to lift a hand. By Christmas of '76, 3 of the 4 men who had ridden to the gate were broke. By Christmas of '77, the 4th had moved his family back to Tennessee. The territory was changing. Clara's pupils were keeping the books for half the small ranches within 60 miles, and the men who would not hire them had been undercut by the men who would. By '78, there were 41 girls on the ranch. By '79, there were 60. By the spring of 1880, Abigail Cole was 24 years old, and she walked into the kitchen with her hat in her hand. "Mama Clara." "Yes, sugar." "Mr. Hardacre from the Lone Star Cattle Bank offered me the bookkeeping for his Texas territory." "You take it." "Yes, ma'am." "What you doing here, then?" "Came to tell you. I aim to ride out in the morning." "Salary?" $1,800 a year. And nobody at that bank knew it was a woman who applied till I walked in. Did he honor the offer? He did, Mama Clara. He said in all his years he never seen a woman do double entry the way I done. He said he would lose his arm before he would lose the contract. "Then take it, Abigail." "Yes, ma'am." "And come home Christmas." "Yes, ma'am." She came home Christmas. She came home every Christmas after that, and by '85 she was running the bookkeeping for 19 ranches and a railroad spur, and the Austin newspaper called her the First Lady of Texas Accounting, and Clara did not show the paper to anyone, but she folded it twice, and put it in the bottom drawer of her bureau, and Ethan saw her do it once and did not say a word. Lily was 18 the day she came in from the schoolhouse Clara had built in the South Meadow. "Mama." "Honey." "The youngest girl in my class read her first sentence today." "What sentence?" "The sun is up." "That'll do." "That'll do, Mama." Lily ran that schoolhouse till the day she married a doctor from Austin who had the sense to follow her back to Red Hollow instead of dragging her down to him. She kept teaching after the wedding. She kept teaching after her first child. She was still teaching when her hair went gray. Noah was 15 the night he came in with his hat in his hand. "Pa, Mama, I got something to say." "Say it, son." "I've been thinking on what I want to do." "Yes." "I want to study law." A long silence. "Law, son." "Yes, sir." Clara said, "Why?" "Because what almost got us in '72 could happen to somebody else. And I aim to be the man at the other side of the table when it does." Clara did not let her face change. She turned to the stove. She said, "All right." That was all. Ethan looked at her back for a long count, and he saw what she was holding, and he did not say a word. Noah went east to study at the law school in New Orleans when he was 19. He came home a lawyer when he was 23. He never took an out-of-state case again. By 90, he had argued 7 petitions in the territorial court on behalf of women whose children had been threatened with removal. He won 6 of them. The 7th he lost on appeal, and then won again when the territorial governor changed. The one he won at 26 was on behalf of a widow in Amarillo. After the verdict, the widow took Noah's hand outside the courthouse. She said, "Mr. Cole, you are a kind young man." Noah said, "Ma'am, I've been called worse." He went home that night. He sat at the kitchen table with his mother. He said, "Mama, I said your line today." "Which one?" "I've been called worse." Clara almost smiled. She said, "It'll do." She kept saying "it'll do" all the way through the 1880s and into the 90s. There came a Tuesday in '83 when Briggs walked into the kitchen and set his hat on the chair. "Mrs. Cole." "Mr. Briggs." "Got a letter." "From who?" "Galveston. A man named Halverson who runs the saloon on Pier Street." "And?" "Tate's dead, ma'am. Took a knife in a card game last Saturday. Halverson thought you ought to know." Clara was quiet. "Mr. Briggs." "Ma'am." "Did the man who killed him hang?" "No, ma'am. Tate drew first. Sheriff ruled it self-defense." "All right. All right. All right means I know where he is." Briggs nodded. He picked up his hat. He left. The years went the way years go. Briggs married a widow from the next county over in '86. Wilkes died in his sleep in '88, smiling for the first time anybody had seen with two of Clara's biscuits on the chair beside his bed. Mason ran the south pasture till he was 60. The ranch grew. The school grew. The territory became a state. In the autumn of 1890, Clara was 49 years old. Ethan was 52. They sat on the porch one cold evening with coffee. Ethan. "Mrs. Cole." 18 years. 18 years. "You ever sorry?" "For what?" "For not getting the cook you wrote for." He laughed. Then he said, "Clara, I never wrote for a cook. I just thought I did. Turns out the Lord sent me what I needed instead." "That a sermon, Mr. Cole?" "A short one." "All right." He took her hand. She let him. They sat on the porch a long time and did not speak. She had her own room until the day she died. She kept the bunkhouse partition standing as long as Wilkes was alive out of respect, and after that she moved into the main house, but she kept her own bedroom, and the door of it had a latch on the inside. She used the latch maybe 4 times in 20 years. But she had it. And Ethan Cole, who had built that latch with his own hands the 3rd week of their marriage when she asked him to never once tried it. The Cross River Ranch. School for Frontier Trades was running with 112 girls in the autumn of 1900. By then Clara was 60. She still cooked. She still taught the morning class herself. She still woke up at 4. There came a morning in 1902 when a girl no older than 14 showed up at the gate with blistered feet and a flour sack on her head. Clara was on the porch already with her coffee. "Girl." "Mrs. Cole." "You walked here. 21 miles, ma'am." "From where?" "I won't say, ma'am. My uncle is looking for me." "How old are you?" 14, ma'am." "What's your name?" "Mary." "Mary what?" "Just Mary, ma'am. The other name don't fit me no more." Clara looked at her a long time. She said, "Sit down." The girl sat. "Mary, I am going to tell you a thing one time and you can carry it with you the rest of your life, or you can leave it on the porch when you go. Either one." "Yes, ma'am. My name is Clara Bennett Cole. I am no bride. I am no widow. I am no man's burden and I am no man's prize. I am the woman who built this house, and every girl who walks through that gate has the same right." "Yes, ma'am." "Now eat." The girl ate. When Clara Bennett Cole died on a Sunday in 1917 at the age of 76, she was buried on the rise above the Cross River with her cast iron skillet at her side and 3 generations of pupils standing in the rain. Noah read the eulogy. He had been a circuit judge for 14 years by then. He said one line, and then he said another line, and then he said the line his mother had said to him at the kitchen table when he was 6 years old, and to his sister Lily when she was 10, and to a girl named Etta Mae Gilliland when she was 14, and to every girl who had ever walked through the gate of the Cross River Ranch for 60 years. He said, "A woman's worth is not measured by who chooses her. It is measured by the life she chooses for herself." He paused. He said, "My mother chose hers." Ethan Cole stood at the head of the grave with his hat in his hand. The way he had stood on the platform of the Red Hollow stagecoach stop 45 years before the day, a tired woman with a cast-iron skillet had looked him dead in the eye and changed the shape of his whole life. The town remembered her name long after they forgot the proposal she refused. That was the lesson. That was the life. That was the woman.